In this section, we'll cover some of the things you need to think about from a setup perspective before your visitors start using the application on their phone. Now, you don't have to set these things up. We've actually put in some defaults for you, but if you want to edit what we put in as a default, or you want to set up your own information, then you can do that. So the first three areas we're going to check is the site card, the customized text, and the custom fields. So the site card is what your visitors will scan when they arrive at your location. So if I come in here, the first thing you need to customize, and again, we've set up a default for you, so this is where the company name would sit, and that will appear on the site card, which I'll show you in a second, and the global password that visitors will use when checking into your site. Now, everyone uses the same site code and password, but they use their own unique email address to sign in. So I'll just save that. So we have two forms of site card. We have our standard site card and our COVID site card. So the standard site card, which I'll just quickly print so you can see that, has your company details, information on how to scan the QR code or enter the Log My Visit website on their phone to check in. It has your site number and your password for signing in. Now, if they're using the QR code, as we said in the first video, they don't need to know that extra information because the QR code bypasses that step, and then some information on what to do when they check in, etc. So that's the standard card. And we've also created another one which we've made a bit more COVID specific because we know it's really important. Now, you'll need a color printer ideally to make this one look best. So this one is branded with the COVID-19 colors. It's got a message about that you're taking precautions to avoid transmission of COVID. It's asking people to sign in before entering, and then it has the same information that the standard card has with the QR code, login details, etc. But it is more branded, as I said, as a COVID specific card. So you can use either of those options. Then we've got the two areas of customized text and custom fields. So customized text is the text that the system displays to your visitors when they are checking in before they can actually sign in. Now, if you don't want to have any messaging on your application, then you can just delete all this information here. Or as you can see, we've got some default information here, which we've tried to make look COVID specific, but you can edit this, changes. This is a standard editor. So if I wanted to go in and change a word and I wanted to make it bold or not bold, as the case may be. So if you've used any sort of word editor, you'll know how to do this. You can change colors, you can change fonts, you can change size of text, etc. So you've got the ability to do anything you like in there. We would suggest that you don't try putting graphics or images in here because they may not work effectively on a phone, and you don't want to have that looking weird. So the first block is the initial message that they see as they are checking in and before they hit the check-in button. The second block of text is what they will see once they have checked in. So this might be, thank you for checking in. Please wear your PPE. Please follow the site instructions. If you don't know, ask. Whatever it is you want the visitor to see once they've checked in. And then the final block of text is what they will see when they check out. So again, the messaging in here is entirely up to you. So we've got here, if you develop any health symptoms, please advise us ASAP. So again, whatever you want to say, it might just say, thank you, have a nice day, or have nothing in there at all. So once you've set that up and save that. Now, if you don't set up any of these, these are the things that your visitors will see. And the final one is the custom fields. Now, this has got some functionality in which we'll go through one by one. So the first thing you've got is, if you want to use them, then you've got 5 checkbox questions where the visitor will tick a box or not, depending on the question. So you need to think about the language that you put in here as to what the question is asking them. So I'm saying here, tick if you've been tested for COVID, tick if you've been unwell, tick if you've been near someone diagnosed, and tick if you agree to our health and safety policy. The only one of these I've got which is a must tick is the health and safety policy, because I want them to agree to that before they can check in. Now, if that's ticked and they don't agree to that option, the system will not let them check in. But obviously you wouldn't want to say must tick with the COVID questions, because if they haven't been sick, then they don't have a choice. The other option you've got here, which is the alert site contact. So if you are using a site contact for your visitors to check in and meet with, or a site that they are going to, you have the ability to alert that contact if they've answered a question a particular way. So, for example, if I wanted to know that someone had been unwell in the last 14 days, I don't want to tick it because I don't want them to be required to tick that option, but if they do tick it, I want to be alerted, and we'll create a video on how to use our instant messaging tool as well as the emails that it will send the site contact if that's the case. I'll untick that because I don't want to break it for later. The next option you've got is 5 text box questions. So again, think about the language for the question. So here's what is the purpose of your visit. Now it's not required. I'm not making my visitors give me an answer to that question, but I may want to make it a required question. And again, I may not want to make it required, but as the site contact that this person is visiting, or the site manager that this visitor is going to, I may want to be alerted if they've answered a question a particular way. So again, tick those or untick. Now you can turn these on and off, test the application, and then come back and change them if you wish. So again, it's important that the language that you're using is correct. We also have a number of other options. So by default, we are assuming that people will want visitors to check in and out. Under most health and safety visitor logs, it's required to know when someone arrived and when they left. Now, if you only want your visitors checking in and you don't care that they've checked out, so for example, if you were a cafe and you just wanted your visitors checking in so that you knew who had been through there for contact tracing, etc., then you would disable this option here. The next option we have is, do you want to ask who your visitor works for? Now, if you don't care who they work for, then just disable this. But if you want to know who they work for, then you can ask them that question, which you would have seen in the first video. The next option related to that is, do you want to automatically add new business names to your global list? So if you want to have a global list of, and we'll cover how to set these up beforehand if you wish to do that in a future video. But if you want to add any business name to your global list of businesses who visit your site, then tick that box. If you don't care, you only want to know it when they do it, but you don't need to know it in the future, then untick that. Then we ask a question about whether you're going to ask them the site name that they're visiting or the site contact that they are visiting. Again, typically we will expect this to be turned on. And you do have the option, if you wish, that they can only visit pre-approved sites or have meetings with, etc., pre-approved site contacts. Now, by default, that is off. But if you wanted to only have them choosing from a set list of sites or a set list of contacts on those sites, then tick that box. The next one we have is the related to our reception mode, and there will be a video on how to use the reception mode. So we've built the tool so that if you had a PC at reception and you had visitors turning up who did not have a smartphone, then the receptionist could ask them the questions that were relevant to your particular site and enter those in through the PC screen. So we've got that option. Now, in some cases, it may not be appropriate that your receptionist sees a list of all of the answers that have been given. So we have the option to turn that on or off. And then finally, again, the least likely of all of these, that you want to limit the use of the app to pre-approved visitors. So if you only wanted your employees to use the application and no other casual visitors, then you would tick that. But by default, that is off because it's unlikely that someone will need to do that. So I would just make those changes and save them. As I said, you can change this data at any time and it will update the application the next time the visitor comes in. So you may have a situation where you want your customized text to be very COVID specific, but then in 6 months, hopefully when we've come out of this, you may want to have different messaging that relates to something else that's related to your business. So you can change that at any time. The same with the questions. You may want to have some initial COVID questions, but in future have different questions at different times for different reasons. So that covers the first stage of setup. Now, if you don't do any of this, then the defaults will apply in the system when your visitors arrive. In the next video, we will cover site contacts, approved visitors, and the business directory.